A new study suggests that kids are reading less, and I think this is actually an opportunity for library marketing. I know that sounds interesting and maybe a little strange, but I'm going to explain what the study says and how you can leverage that study to improve your library marketing and improve literacy in your community. That's all ahead in this episode of the Library Marketing Show. Hi, everyone. I'm Angela Hursh from superlibrarymarketing.com. Head on over there and click on the Library Marketing Show tab to suggest a topic for a future episode or nominate your library or someone else's library for kudos. And we're going to begin today's episode with kudos, which is going to a whole bunch of Cleveland, Ohio area libraries. Let me explain. I came across a guest column published on cleveland.com by a woman who is not a librarian, and she's getting her master's or some advanced degree in biology, I think. But she wrote this guest column for cleveland.com about all the things you can get at libraries. And I wanted to call this out. I'm going to put a link to it below, by the way. But I think this is incredible because this is a person who is not really related to libraries. They don't work in libraries. They're not a library marketer, but they're talking about the value of libraries. And in this day and age, when we are all fighting for not only relevancy, we know we're relevant, we're fighting to prove our relevancy, and we're fighting for funding, this kind of strategy could totally work. I bet the libraries had something to do with getting this woman to write this guest column. It's long. It's got a great graphic with it. It looks very professionally done. She's a great writer. I want you to read it down below and then think about how you might be able to do the same kind of thing in your community. Great job, Cleveland area libraries. All right, let's get into today's topic. So there is some new research that links increased social media usage to slower reading and vocabulary growth in kids. This is something that seems like common sense to me. Most people who see the study are framing this as a literacy crisis, but I think it's a marketing problem. So let me explain. What this study does say is that kids are consuming content constantly. So they didn't really lose the ability to read. They're just losing the ability, or they're choosing to consume content in a different way. Instead of books, they're consuming it in posts or videos. So this really is not a study that shows a decline in reading. It shows a shift in the format of the way kids consume content. Now, I think we may be doing in libraries, we may be doing ourselves a disservice in the way that we talk about reading with kids. Here's what I mean. Oftentimes in the messaging that I see in libraries about reading targeted towards kids or targeted toward caregivers of kids, it's things like reading is important, reading builds skills, reading builds empathy. All those things are true. It's very logical, but it's also not emotionally rewarding. So I am suggesting a shift in the way we do our messaging around reading targeted at kids. And I say that because I think people know reading is good. I think they know the value of reading. I think what they have forgotten, and we need to remind them of, is that reading is about empathy and feeling and emotion and escape. It's about the experience rather than the skills that you build. It's great that we build skills. I think it's awesome. But I think our messaging shouldn't focus on that. We should be focusing more on the emotion and the experience of reading. So I want libraries to start positioning reading as something people like to do, not should do, but like to do. Something that is social and shareable. So think about all the ways that you have seen in your community, people love to talk about books and what they're reading. We can capitalize on that. And as part of modern life, not a nostalgic thing that we used to do when we were kids or our parents used to do. This is actually a part of our life today, and it is an incredibly emotionally wonderful experience. So that means our messaging needs to focus on reading as something that you do to be a part of your community, not something that you should do. So I'm saying this and thinking about all the cities and counties, libraries who do those one book, one city kind of programs. That's the kind of thing I'm talking about. Reading for social pleasure, reading for being part of a community. So that's my advice around this study. I'm going to put the study down below, and I would love to hear your ideas about how to market reading as something that's enjoyable and a part of life and not an obligation. Let's get a conversation started down in the comments. And that's it for this episode of the Library Marketing Show. But my channel is full of other tips for library marketing. If you're interested in learning more, head on over there and I will see you there.